Sketchy. Hello and welcome back once again. It's Josh doing some Disney art today. This is a long one, so I'm pacing myself because I'm going to run out of things to say. I think this is going to be upwards of 15 minutes long because I'm drawing 4 characters today. I think this was a YouTube comment suggestion, and forgive me, I don't remember who it was exactly, but thank you for this suggestion, reminding me that this is definitely one of my favorite hidden gem Disney films. Atlantis, the Lost Empire, from a very interesting time in Disney animation, post the 90s Renaissance, but and when Pixar was kind of starting to take over the show. But some very interesting experiments got through on the Disney side of things. Things like Atlantis, Treasure Planet, some action adventure content from Disney. That was very exciting and interesting. I just saw Strange World. I guess I'm one of the very few people in the country who went to a theater with my kid to see Strange World. I thought it was okay. I definitely like the design, and I like the themes and some of the stuff they were going for, but I didn't think it was as strong. Some people have compared it to things like Treasure Planet and Atlantis, but I think that these, at least visually, now you got to understand, even since I was a kid, I'm approaching animated films purely for the visuals, for the animation, for the drawing, the stories and all that. I have opinions about the stories and all that other stuff, but I'm really here for the drawings. So that's the lens through which I approach all of this. But yeah, I love the design and the animation, the character animation, particularly in Atlantis. Here I am drawing Milo T. Thatch, I believe is the character's name, voiced by Michael J. Fox. And just so much of what I love about Disney design in this character. I love those squared off fingers. I love the hard angles. Now, in this movie, they really leaned into it. This is a style that I would trace back to the kind of shaggy 70s Disney style when they were Xeroxing the animators' drawings to save money directly onto cells instead of inking. And you got these kind of very scratchy, pencil-y feeling drawings and these very boxy designs. There'd be films like 101 Dalmatians and Sword in the Stone, particularly, one of my very, very favorites. So I think on Atlantis, they're leaning into that kind of a classic Disney angular design, but also they've hired comic book artist Mike Mignola, and he is a consultant on the character design, and I think also just the overall design of the environments and vehicles and things. Also, Atlantis came out on DVD at a time, early 2000s, when Disney was just doing amazing work. Really, I think what they were doing is just letting the filmmakers take the lead in the creation of DVD bonus material. This is something that simply does not happen anymore. You'll get some DVD extras, but they'll mostly just be EPK stuff, electronic press kit, stuff, basically a trailer with a couple of interviews spliced into it. But back then we got some incredible 2-disc collector's edition DVDs that would be filled with commentaries and pencil animation and featurettes about the design, interviews with the artists, progression reels, all that kind of stuff. I ate all of that up. There's the finished drawing of Milo. Now, I oftentimes you'll see that I kind of fast forward or even skip through the coloring process. It just takes the longest, and that footage takes up a lot of space on my storage devices. So sometimes you'll see that I kind of skip to the end with the coloring. Now here, for this second drawing, I am drawing the character Cookie, who was voiced by the late, great Jim Varney. And for 2 of these characters, I've chosen to just keep it a pencil sketch, since I think, as I've mentioned before, my primary interest with animation is the work of that animator. And if I can see pencil test animation oh, I'll prefer that every time. And there's some really good pencil test stuff on the Atlantis DVD if you can track it down. Here's the cool thing. I guess since I have a lot of time in this video, I can get into some more random tangents. But I recently had the notion. I have this rotting DVD collection of all these things, all these DVDs I collected, hundreds of them over the decades. And I had the notion quite recently to start to rip them and make the highest quality video files possible. And then I have a hard drive connected to my TV, because most TVs have built-in media players and stuff like that now. So I'm creating an archive of all these old DVD extras from Disney and Pixar, and the appendices from the original Lord of the Rings discs and all that kind of stuff. And there's been a million DVD editions of the Star Wars movies and stuff like that. So trying to archive as much as I can of that classic bonus material when they used to make it different than they do now, when it was actually made by the filmmakers, or at least in conjunction with the filmmakers and for the fans. Now it's all just marketing. It's all just, there's a layer of marketing on the disc you already paid for, trying to sell you the studio and their other titles, and weirdly trying to sell you the movie that you already bought. But there's some, good classic stuff. Maybe I'll make a video about that at some point and celebrate some of that and show off some of the goodies that I have. Anyway, what happened in that project of digitizing those DVDs, I mean, they're already digital, but ripping them, was whenever I would encounter frequently issues with disc rot or scratches or things, because these are very old discs, and I was despairing, oh no, these things are lost forever, until I realized, DVDs, these old DVDs from this era, from the early 2000s, they're just a dime a dozen. They're just laying around. You go on Amazon or any kind of a marketplace for such items, and I'm getting the ultimate toy box, Toy Story 4-disc set that came out, and it's like $5. So anyway, that's a little note. If you're missing some of this stuff and you want to catch up with it, it's real easy. And all those Platinum Edition 2-disc DVDs from Disney, yeah, the movie doesn't look as good. It's not in 4K. But I'm talking about those juicy extras that are rare now, that are hard to see. They don't always get carried over. Sometimes Disney will do that. They'll put like the classic bonus features on, or sometimes they're only available digitally or something weird like that. But anyway, that's another one of my weird obsessions that I'm just airing it all on YouTube these days. Here is Helga. This is a cool character. From Atlantis. I really haven't watched the film in a long time. I watched a lot of the bonus features recently because that was one of the discs that I worked on archiving, but I should really sit down and watch the movie. I'm assuming the Blu-ray that exists now is the best version of the movie. I don't imagine there's a 4K version yet. 4K in animation is an interesting thing, I think, that's still being sorted out. There are some 4K discs of Pixar movies, obviously, that makes a lot of sense, but I'm curious about things like hand-drawn animation and stop motion. The most recent, not that recent now, maybe a decade ago, in the 2010s, Disney put out a bunch of Blu-ray updates of their hand-drawn, and they were absolutely atrocious. I'm thinking of titles like The Sword and the Stone, one of my very favorites as a lover of pencil-y animation, and Mickey's Christmas Carol, another an 80s title, but one with that lovely pencil-y animation. They put out a bunch of these movies, and they did digital noise reduction and some kind of a filter, an algorithmic filter to quote, improve the image, and they just botched it. I think they were actively trying to smooth out the pencil marks that sometimes, the artifacts that you can see from the artist's work on these movies, and they ended up being this kind of goopy digital mess. And I don't know that they've ever improved upon that. I think some of the streaming versions are better than the Blu-rays that are still on shelves. Anyway, so here I am going off on my physical media tirades. Helga. By the way, all the images in this exercise here, all four of them, They are based on specific. I had my phone nearby, and I'm looking at actual stills from the movie, but I'm not being slavish. I'm tweaking things a little bit. I changed the pose here on Helga a bit, and I had a little fun with the hair and the position of her boot to make it a little more interesting than the still that I happen to be using. But I am also trying to stay on model. I want to pay tribute to the movies, and her leg's a little too thick there. I think I will fix that before the finished image pops up. I was wondering how I was going to fill this entire video, and all it took was some rants about dying media. It looks like, I think the entire coloring process will be included here with Helga. She only has 3 or 4 main colors. Anyway, but this is my, you can see other videos on my channel where I get into the details about this coloring process. Essentially, I'm filling in large areas so that I can get the texture I want, and then I'm erasing around the edges. Kind of a backwards kind of a painting exercise technique. This is a lot of fun. Sometimes I feel weird just making Disney fan art. It feels kind of basic, but people enjoy it. I enjoy it. This is really, and it really gets me back to the roots of why I like to draw in the first place. It takes me back to my youth. And I really like what I'm able to accomplish. I kind of like my art to have a feeling of being partway in between, like feeling like a cell, like an animation cell, but also having a little bit of that texture. If you look at it close, you'll see my lines and my colors have a very specific texture. So it's like if you look at it from far away, I want it to almost look like it's just animation art from the film, but I've created it in my own special way. And there's going to be some tweaks, but when you see the final image pop up, you're going to notice that her leg is thinner, and I had to redraw the heel on that boot. I'm not digital art affords you the opportunity to tweak, and I'm not afraid to go back in. I don't want to overwork any piece, but it is. That's the revised version. But I'm not afraid to make revisions either if it's going to make me happier with the finished product. And now here finally, this one's just a sketch, no coloring or inking on this. This is a great character design. Audrey the mechanic, I forget her last name, and Audrey Ramirez, is that the character's name? But just a lot of big visual swings in this movie. I mean, the subject matter is crazy. It's this kind of Lovecraftian undersea adventure. But also for me, it's just almost regardless of what happens in the story, the swings they took with the character design and the animation and the humor too. It's a pretty funny movie as far as Disney features go. But we are approaching the final stretch here. I guess it looks easier to draw cartoons than it does to draw realistic portraits. But after a year of kind of obsessing over the portraits and now coming back to incorporating more cartoon art, I'm finding 2 things. I'm finding one, that cartoons are not easier just by their nature, especially if you're trying to capture a specific style or even adapt something into a style. But also, I feel like all that time I spend on the, quote, realistic portraits with photo reference, I feel like that's starting to pay dividends that I didn't even anticipate in the quality of my cartoon art when I go back to it. Spending all that time, on the details and the minutia of the features of a face, of a realistic face, a photographic face, really can help inform the way that you. I'm copying Disney's character design here, but I'm trying to render it in a technique in a way that makes sense to me. So I've made some changes, and I'm drawing this the way I draw. That's it. We're just about done. Thank you for your time. Subscribe and share and all that if you like it, and I'll see you in another video real soon. Bye.